I think asset managers and wealth managers are asking more from their providers, they're asking more from their suppliers, they're asking them to be extensions of their operating model and really think about how they build scalable product, which is really critical to them, but then partner with a set of infrastructure that can help them drive scalable business.
Hello and welcome to this week's Tea Break. I'm Al-Enazi, joined as always by my co-host Yuri. Today, we're delighted to be speaking with Matthew Bax, Head of Client at Citi Investor Services. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. And to kickstart our discussion, what tea have you gone for?
I actually chose something I don't normally choose, which is green tea. Just come back from Tokyo. My girls are also getting me into a huge matcha drive, which is the craze at home. So I thought I'd go for green tea today.
Because you work for Citi, the big US bank, and you were previously at JP Morgan, neither of them known for their tea drinking culture. So I've gone for the coffee in your honour. And, you know, the last time we saw each other, Matthew, in the sunny climes of Monte Carlo, in the summer when you were presenting that very interesting report about culture in asset management. If we look back over the years, there've been so many interesting leaders for asset and wealth managers. We've had the good, bad and the ugly. So why now do we suddenly have to have visionary leaders and transformative culture, whereas we didn't really care much about that before?
Just in terms of the frame of the overall report that we did with Professor Amin and Create, it was about just a shy of 270 managers, 27 markets, about 37.7 trillion of AUM. And then we followed that up with 30 interviews of our leaders. So unsurprisingly, strategic vision, leadership came very clear out of that, but you'd expect it to. The report really showed that most of the respondents thought that structural change and an inflection point was taking place. Obviously, there's a lot of changes and developments that are going on, and these leaders need to think not just about the front office and about performance, but ultimately the structure of their business and where they're going.
It's not just about culture, it's about asset allocation too. What have you been finding?
Well, I was speaking to Pictet in Geneva, which you could say is the perfect example of a medium-sized investment manager, and they were talking to me about the end of the 60-40 balanced, equities bonds portfolio. Matthew, you have the boutiques and you have the giants. Can these medium-sized managers, like Pictet, still play an important role and create alpha?
That alpha is not just about client acquisition, growth, or performance of funds. Alpha can be generated through the business model front to back. That's the critical change that we're seeing. And I think asset managers and wealth managers are asking more from their providers, they're asking more from their suppliers, they're asking them to be extensions of their operating model and really think about how they build scalable product, which is really critical to them, but then partner with a set of infrastructure that can help them drive scalable business. So we call in our business something operational alpha. How do we create that scalability? How do we create the adaptability for the asset managers? And whether you're a large index manager or a small active manager, all of the industry has to think front to back now about how they create that alpha to really improve the client experience. It's not just about that front office side. And I think everyone in the landscape has got the opportunity to optimize their model.
Looking at you youngsters, Ali, with all your apps, and I know how fit you are, and you can still play football 3 times a week.
It's gone down to 2 times.
Down to 2 times, incredible. With me, it's kind of 2 times a year, I think. And talking to a guy yesterday, also in his twilight years, he's a tech entrepreneur, just sold his technology business, and he was saying to me, Yuri, that the technology and AI, it's not really about systems and ideas. He said, it's more about the orchestration. And we were talking about the Bananarama song. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. And that's what gets results. Is that a sentiment that mirrors your research about the asset management industry?
About 60 plus respondents really think that AI is going to drive the business model more than only one thing in the rest of the industry, and that was consolidation and M&A, which is up at about 63. So that means it's a C-suite conversation, which is how do they get their AI strategy right. To your point about it's how you do it, it's how you implement it, I think the study found that there's critical couple of areas that on the investment process they're looking at, whether it be sentiment analysis, which has been around for quite a while with NLP, whether it be big data analysis, which is really coming to the forefront, or whether it's actually generating investment ideas. But I think, again, from my landscape, from the business we're in, the other interesting point is the operational alpha we spoke about before that people can get from AI in the stack. How do they get operating efficiencies, cost to income ratios right down through using this technology? And how do they think about blending the new with the old in terms of the capability that they need to get AI into the operating model to deliver that digitalized client experience?
Crypto is becoming an increasingly important theme for us, as described by a recent opinion piece we had by Oscar Östlund. This was an area which most investment firms, well, until recently, were very dismissive about.
60% of CEOs now want to supply to that demand. They're thinking about how they put this asset class into their portfolios, particularly in the wealth management and the asset management side. I think that's got some real implications for the managers. Particularly, I think those ones without the scale. They've got to all make the decision: do they buy, do they build, do they outsource this capability? And Citi has always thought about this as part of the intermediation. Our front offices, our portfolio managers want access to all asset classes, all pools of liquidity, all markets, investable markets. And the intermediation is going to get very complicated between the traditional side and the new networks that are emerging in terms of the digital assets. And I think managers have really got to work out what's critical to their client franchise, who is going to create that infrastructure and the partnership at the back end to then provide that intermediation at the best, lowest cost approach. So I definitely think it is changing. And because of the tokenization aspects of crypto, it's got multiple uses for us across the entire stack.
And it's really interesting also to look at which kind of appetite for investment strategies the next generation has, Matthew. And your writing colleague, he's been moonlighting for us as well, and he wrote a recent piece for us describing the digital estate, a set of skills, knowledge, details about investment strategies passed on from one generation and cohort to the next one, which was a fascinating concept. Do you see that as a great opportunity or more of a challenge?
We've had a fairly benign environment, let's call it post-COVID, right, in terms of our innovation and change truly in the industry, maybe derivatives, ETFs, etc., but it's been fairly benign. We're going through a massive explosion. And honestly, I think our talent pool and our cultural aspects have been driven around regulation, risk and control, linear processes, waterfall investments, straight through all the way, through standard mechanisms. And that's just blown up. We've really got to work out how we get together with the new thinking, the digital thinking, the technology thinking with the traditional. We blend that together. I think one of the most interesting points about the summary on the report was that winning business models are going to be a combination of the best of the old and the best of the new.
So it's all about riding smoothly but avoiding the hazards, as you do on your skiing trips.
Exactly right. Keen skier, lots of hazards, but that's probably quite a lot of the post-trade world now. It's getting hugely more complex, much more fragmented, and it's now about partnerships and how you focus on your core client delivery, but then ask providers to really drive frictionless, instant product through to their clients.
Ali, you'll be taking up skiing as well as your football, do you think?
Oh, I'm not a big fan of the skiing, but I'll stick with my football instead. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ali.
That's all we have time for today. Don't forget, we have our annual Global Wealth Management Summit coming up on the 5th of November. We only have a handful of tickets left, so if you are interested, head on over to the PWM website for more information. See you next week.